Today we're going to speak about money, and that's the reason why we have Parker Reynolds here. I would love to introduce him. He's an independent financial coach to help families and medical professions with their most important concerns about building wealth and retirement, which is, I know, is a very big thing, especially in America where there is, well, let's just say no safety net. It's nearly not there, and might as well not be there. So the first question, like, how do you help people with money? If somebody's sitting there and curious.
No, that's a good question. Well, thank you for that kind intro, Mads. I'm Parker Reynolds, and pretty much how I help people is really just sit down. We kind of go through, what their goals and objectives are in the beginning, and just really diving deep into this holistic financial planning. So we don't go around, trying to sell products. We provide a really good service, and sitting down with our clients and providing that holistic approach, diving deep into, saving for retirement, saving enough money for their lifestyle, all this type of stuff, what they're trying to achieve. We dive deeper into, okay, how can we get there the most efficient way? But that's pretty much like in a nutshell, how I help people beginning, just diving into the holistic financial approach.
What's something you often see people doing without being conscious of it?
Really just paying for things that they can't afford to pay for. I see that a lot in this industry, going around buying expensive cars that they can't, afford.
Well, how much money,
All this kind of stuff.
how much money, let's say, you want to buy a car that's $50,000. I don't know what you can get in the US for that. How much money would a person have to make for you to be sitting there? Yeah, you can do that. You earned it.
I mean, around that level,
Yeah.
probably over 200,000 at least to be able to afford something like that. I mean, especially in the climate that we're heading, I've seen like the housing markets kind of like being affected as well. Like middle income families not being able to afford housing. A lot of people renting nowadays as well. Yeah, someone like in that spectrum, they would have to be making over like 250,000 to be able to afford a $50,000 car. Um, that's my answer to that.
Well, you got me curious about another thing. You talked about the way the market's headed. Well, I think most people are actually interested in that watch this video. So, what do you see changing in your perspective? And this is not financial advice, for goddammit.
Not financial advice. Yes, I want to point that out as well. Um, just like news around like where our taxes are headed. I ask people all the time, do you think taxes are going to go up or are they going to go down in the future? That's like a big topic of conversation because after 2025, like the tax brackets are set to, expire after the Trump era. So I just ask people like, what do you think is going to happen? There's a website out there. It's completely free. I don't get paid for this at all, but it's called usdebtclock.org. And I find a lot of value from just going on that site, just seeing, our government being in debt, just what type of environment are we in? Like that's the website that I love going to, showing people, we're kind of in trouble. So how are we going to plan for that? Like when our economy, kind of goes into that next recession, that next collapse, whenever that will be, I have no idea, but just planning for that. So my opinion, I believe taxes are going to go up, but really just wrapping my clients' heads around, being able to prepare for that is what I love helping people with.
I just wanted to see if Mike wanted to jump in. Well,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I thought so. I thought so. This is your kind of subject.
No,
So
love
what we too have seen a lot of people that buy stuff they can't possibly afford. And it's the classic, of course, is my phone carrier gave me this free brand new iPhone number 97,000 version. It's like, it's not free, dude. They rolling it into the payments you're making. So So that's a thing a lot of people fall for. What's another common misconception people have when they go to buy something, thinking they can afford it, but they're not realizing what it's really going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you help people see the reality?
Absolutely. Just diving deeper into the numbers, really figuring out what their cash flow is in the beginning. Like, you have your income and your expenses. Just sitting down, showing people, okay, here's your income, here's what you're paying for currently. Does it really make sense to start paying for something else that's really just covering those living expenses in the beginning, the food, the shelter, the housing, and then going out and buying all these, these apps, right? You got the Netflix, you got the Hulu, all this type of stuff. Are you able to afford that after your daily expenses are covered, your bills and everything? But just sitting down, figuring out their cash flow, that's definitely a big topic in the beginning. We like to talk about.
So what do you do with a person that you just struggling to get them out of that mindset of, it's the mindset I'm speaking to is people think, well, if I can handle the payments, I can handle this thing, which isn't really true in the long run, unless
Right.
their income's going up.
Absolutely.
So what do you do with somebody that's really stuck in that mindset? We don't have an answer. We're asking you.
No, that's kind of an answer I'm trying to figure out myself, just early on in my industry. But we provide a lot of resources. We provide a lot of, other people in the industry that are kind of more experienced than me actually talking about this type of stuff. So I'm connected with other financial advisors in the industry. And like for me, like the way I talk to people is, I grew up, just telling my story a little bit. I grew up around two entrepreneurs, my parents being like they owned their own ice cream business. So just growing up around them, hearing from them that, just putting your money in a savings account is the best way to, prepare for your long-term plan. I thought to myself that there's no way that's possible because I'm seeing other people, retire early, all this type of stuff, being able to be financially stable after like a certain period of time. So just talking to other people and just figuring out, okay, it, like putting your money in a savings account, there's got to be another way to be able to afford things more efficiently. So I think just for me, just talking to people, hearing other people's expertise in the industry has definitely helped me a lot. But getting people's mindset around not being able to afford something, that's the toughest part for me, to change someone's mindset, because a lot of people are stuck in their ways and what they're currently doing, which I'm fine with. But just providing that guidance and just providing that a different pathway, just showing the comparison and the contrast of, okay, what if we make a few changes and we implement this plan versus what you're currently doing? Just showing that compare contrast, I find that kind of helps some people's mindset, but it's really hard to change someone. Not gonna lie about that.
Well, you are asking a person to get out of their comfort zone, level down their life, get rid of a
Correct.
bunch of nice things, and yes, do this for a couple of years, and then you will be able to start from zero.
A lot of sacrifices absolutely have to be made to be able to do that.
I
No
think
question.
that's why some people, even though they can see the logic, I imagine they're not willing to make the sacrifices. But at that point, you're just extending the amount of time that it
Right.
actually takes before the pain comes.
Correct.
It's gonna
Yes,
happen
sir.
someday. You're gonna learn, unless you're very goddamn lucky.
Yeah, I've been blessed to learn early on, just it's all about planning, just being able to, sit down, figure out what you're currently doing, and just continue to learn every single day from yourself, your experiences, and just preparing for the future. And then you can pass it on to your kids and grandkids, leaving that legacy, teaching them like what you learned, so they don't make the same mistakes as well. But I've learned that early on just from my parents and um, yeah, just growing up, really.
I would.
And I want to point out for our audience, what we're talking about here encompasses the concept of paying for things with payments. So you can't afford it all at once. If you're in that situation of paying for something, is you don't have the cash to buy it outright, have a prepayment plan and a deadline to have that payment finished. Don't let it go on, because people are always happy to add more interest to what you owe.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good point. Having that set plan in place rather than just, using your credit card just for these unexpected things, throwing your credit card around, like, you don't have a set plan to pay it off. Like, that's just.
Yeah, that's asking for it.
It's not being smart,
yeah, it can get very expensive. We have a TV program over here in Denmark called the Luxus Trap, and it's basically just young people that's been very, very stupid and very silly with their money, and they have a couple of $100,000 in debt. They're like 25. It's like you have to work for 10 years with basically doing nothing fun just to pay it off. So that's why it's worth taking the pain now and not putting it off. What's when it's gonna really hurt. One thing I would like to ask you as well, because we met on Alex Hit's Speed Networking event, and I think I've at least met like 4 other financial planners or advisors of some sort out there. So how are you making yourself stand out from every other person that's actually virtually in the room at that point?
That's a very good question. So yeah, a lot of people in the financial industry and in our networking groups, being able to collaborate with them has been a way that I can support them, but they can also support me. So a lot of people in the financial space, they like being set on a specific target market. So for me, I like helping a lot of traveling nurses and medical professionals. My wife's in the traveling nursing space, just telling that story a little bit. I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I've been blessed to help like some of her colleagues that I've been working with their financial plans. So really just figuring out like your target market is really key for me to stand out. Kind of like you, Mads, like you're doing here with your podcast, being able to provide video content, sharing my story online, just having an online presence rather than just being a robot, just going out messaging people all day, just being able to be an authentic person. I think I'm able to stand out that way, just, providing my story, sharing how I can help people, but also just providing value on a daily basis. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing so far.
I'm definitely seeing a recurring theme here that everybody that we asked this question, I have asked this question, to some extent, all of them should just say, be yourself. Of
Be
course,
yourself.
that's a given.
That's it. Yes,
you
sir.
are unique.
It's finances is kind of becoming a commodity industry where you have a lot of people selling the same kind of thing. So it's really about the person.
Correct.
My real gift, which I've also worked super hard to develop, I'm the forensic investigator inside a company. I can tell you what that company is more probably than not going to look like in a few years. That's all probabilities game, but you don't want me talking to a bunch of traveling nurses who are really compassionate, loving type people when I'm talking my nerd math numbers, because it just, you got to know who you're talking to.
There's a different demographic for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the guy when the financial guys are like, "What's this company gonna do?" I'm like, "Here's my best report on this."
Right. No, absolutely. That's good value right there, Mike. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I don't generally talk to the rest of the human race, so it's a challenge for me.
Well, when it gets into engineer talk, for everybody that's the first time watching, Mike is a rocket engineer. So when he gets nerdy, it's well, to some extent out of this world, because it really is. That's what it comes from. He goes to Mars sometimes. Have to bring him back.
Yeah, I feel like being connected to a rocket scientist is actually a really good thing because you get to learn something new from, I mean, him every single day. I mean, just being that smart and intelligent, like you're always learning new things. So that's definitely
We all should be. And the whole key of it is knowing as early in life as you can, figure out your aptitude, which is, I describe it as capability plus willingness to learn.
right.
Those two combined will make you good at what you choose to do, whatever that is. But it's got to be something you love.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, you got to have a passion for it. Absolutely.
So
so
most.
what are some? Oh, go ahead, Mus.
If you want to ask, I can ask my question later if you got a good one.
So I'm gonna pick on nurses a little bit because my mom was a emergency room nurse for almost 50 years.
Amazing.
And then she switched to oncology, which is cancer, because she said they're more quiet.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, people coming into trauma either screaming or almost dead, right? That's what you get. But when you're dealing with that type of personality that nurses have, so very smart, very kind of intuitive. There's a lot of they can pick up on feelings really easily.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take clients like that into your space where it's much more numbers oriented and it's more goal oriented? Like you're not just saving money, but you save for specific purposes, and that kind of drives the investment, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Just providing like information at a basic level. I mean, nurses are providing value on a daily basis to their patients, just taking care of their patients on a critical level. So they're dealing with a lot of headaches throughout their everyday. So the last thing they want to be thinking about is like their financial portfolio. The last thing they want to do is think about their money and all this type of stuff. I kind of take that headache away and just provide information at a basic level and just dumb it down for them. Okay, what if we start here and start planning for 3 to 5 years down the line? Just providing information at a basic level, I think, would kind of help them in the long term, rather than just like providing even more headache of what they're currently doing. I mean, like you just said, Mike, but just reemphasizing, just being basic and just being able to connect with them and help them achieve their goals. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I think that'd be a great tagline for one of your shows. Is I'm the aspirin for nurses.
Aspirin for nurses. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I'll write that down. Actually, that's good. Learn something new from the rocket scientist today.
Yeah.
I try, like you, Parker. I try to give value where I can. So if I hear something, it's like, what do I have that I could offer that person? It's a great way to live.
Absolutely.
So going from nurses and back to business, most of our audience is small business owners. So what is some ways where low liquidity can really hurt a business growth?
Low liquidity can hurt a business growth?
Yeah. Or business grow is probably the right way to say it.
That's a good question. So, I mean, small business owners, when you first start out, you're not making too much money. It's like it's not consistent income coming in. So just having that low liquidity, you got to be able to plan for your expenses. You got to be able to plan for what you're paying for, like outbound and inbound. So like when you're making some sales, you got to be able to, like, kind of like for me as well, just being able to plan around, okay, when I make this certain amount of income, what can I do to afford until I make my next sale? If that makes sense. So just being able to plan, sit down, look at the numbers. Okay, I made this sale. How much time do I have with this amount of money that I have to, being able to live off of before my next sale? So just having like a plan with your liquidity, I think that's really key. But yeah, just really looking at your numbers, running things down, and just having a plan. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. If you have low liquidity, you just gotta be able to, make some sacrifice. You're not gonna be able to go out with your friends all the time, all this type of stuff. You gotta be able to make some sacrifices and live off the money that you have to be able to, pay for your food, pay for your shelter, all this type of stuff. Yeah, just having that plan in place.
So having a plan, that's definitely important. But you talked about, well, getting the next sale. So what is something that you think other businesses could benefit from doing in that whole opt-in process, lead-in process, whatever they want to call it, in the financial industry?
To, be able to get your next sale. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, basically.
Absolutely. So your current client that you just provided value for. So you just literally just help them with their financial plan, put that in place, and you're going to be able to work with them for the rest of your life, right? Throughout the course of their, financial life, before they, pass away. You ask them, okay, since I provided you some great value, is there maybe 1 to 2 people that you can possibly refer me to that I can have a similar conversation with? Maybe like a, friend or family member that would also benefit from having a conversation. They don't have to be interested in financial advice, but just being able to sit down and have a conversation like we just had. Really just diving into, kind of their market as well, prospecting forward, and continue to provide value for people like you just did with your current client. I've been doing that consistently with my current clients that I have in place. Gotten a few referrals, but really just continuing to provide education and value for people is what it's all about.
And if somebody's sitting out there and thinking, God damn it, how do I get my first client? I don't care about the next one. What would you say to that person, or how did you do it yourself? Getting that first client, no referrals, no nothing.
Oh, absolutely. So, I first started with my friends and family members, just start talking about what I did. But at the end of the day, if you can't help your family or your friends, you just go out and start meeting people, like start going to in-person networking events, online networking events like we're a part of, just meeting people in like your local area. Just, shake hands. Don't talk about like what you did, like what you're doing for your business, but start listening to what they're doing for their business and see how you can help them as well. Because you don't want to go out and start, telling your story. People don't like, I don't know how to explain this, but people like, people like talking about themselves, but if you're a really good listener, that can also make an impact on, what type of person that the other person thinks you are, if that makes sense. Just being able to listen, maybe provide value for what they're currently doing in their business, and then maybe referring some people that can help their business. And then now do the same thing for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
getting another person to get your foot in the door by providing them value first.
All about, yeah, just networking and just meeting people, and yeah, just building that like, know, and trust with people. So if people, I like using that term. A lot of people use the know, like, and trust, but if people don't like you in the beginning, like they don't want to get to know you
No.
No.
if they don't, right? So you got to build that like in the beginning, just listening, having active conversation, and then build that know, and then you build that trust.
Well, I know
Another
that.
thing for audience that you can do as well, in the context, especially if it's an in-person event, look around the room and look at different people's body language. If you're not good at reading body language, that's okay. You'll pick it up over time. But like Parker said, look for the people that are relaxed. Like I imagine, Parker, when you're at these meetups, you're not uptight because you're not pounding trying to get a client. You're going in there where you're pretty chill. You're just talking to people.
Correct.
And that's a big divider line between people that we want to talk to and ones we don't, for sure.
Right. Absolutely. I'm not like a nervous wreck, but I'm kind of sweating because I'm always wearing like a suit or something nice at these networking events. But I'm kind of, sweaty at the end, but
Yeah, we don't do that in Austin. It's too hot anyway.
You gotta get your nice linen one for all the people that's struggling out there. They're way cooler.
yeah, it's just a good brand presence. Just telling people who you are, but yeah, having that good body language, like Mike said, that's definitely important as well.
Well, that's whatever. 78% was probably the last thing I heard is whatever it makes up of communication. Basically, whatever they're trying to tell you is it's the most important because you can't fake it. Whenever somebody looks to the left, they're going inside deep in their brains to be creative. And that
Mhm.
can either be because you said a thought-provoking thought, I think Michael Parker said something earlier where I went, oh, that's right. But it can also be, how do I get out of this? The thing,
Well,
Correct.
that's a good lead in, Moss. So Parker, if you're talking to someone and we're talking about a meetup or Zoom networking, and you sense that they really need to disengage from that conversation, how do you give them an easy out to disengage?
If they don't like want to continue our conversation, is what you're asking?
Yeah, but maybe they just don't have the confidence to say it. But you've picked up on the fact that this needs to stop. How do you do it?
I got you. That's a really good. I mean, if we're in an in-person networking event, the way I usually do it is, I have your contact information. It was really great meeting you today. Looking forward to staying connected. And, I got my social media right here, my business card that you have. But I'm going to go continue, meeting other people, but we'll love to stay connected. Just, providing that, nice way out rather than just be like, all right, bye. Have a good day. Right. You want to have a nice outing, like, just saying bye the nice way. But if I'm like an online networking event, that's kind of tricky. Usually I just say, I got to kind of run to another meeting, but, would love to stay connected. Kind of doing that way. But you also have my, contact information online. You can always reach me by phone or email. But just being like really generous. Not just being like a mean person, just being like an authentic, nice person. Just being like, I got to run to another meeting, but also just would love to stay connected.
Yeah, and I hope everybody listening takes that to heart. Because I know Moss and I have seen it done the wrong way too many times. Parker's illustrating a good way to do this, and sometimes disengaging is what you need to do.
Correct.
You don't want to make the other person feel bad when you do it. So
yeah, I had a similar conversation with another financial guy today. He just kept, going on and on and on about his recent traveling experience. I'm just like, oh, that's great. I got to actually run to another meeting, but I'd love to catch up another time and learn more about your traveling experience that you had. But yeah, it was kind of funny, but that's kind of how I did it. It's not like, oh, I don't really care anymore. I wasn't that bad. But it was kind of like an awkward conversation, but yeah, that's how I did it.
So, well, some conversations are awkward if you have enough of them. It's bound to happen.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's the worst thing about being on a really good streak of like conversation meetings. One of these next ones is gonna suck. It's coming. It's coming. It's gotta come.
I know Moss's one of his tricks is he'll start speaking in Danish and just say, I just ran out of English, man. I'm done with English.
Right. Start learning another language.
Yeah, you're just plain Danish. They don't have a clue what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Absolutely no clue. So, we're speaking about networking events. I kind of want to circle back to that. What is a good way to have a successful first call? Once you get a person off the event, like you meet them after. It can also be something different than a call. I just do a call, so that's why I asked it that way.
Right. I offer you can do a 15-minute call, you can do a 15-minute Zoom call, or even a 30-minute Zoom call is what I like doing with people. But just having a successful one is, I like using a calendar link, for example. So I let them make the decision of when they want to schedule with me. Just provide like that on their end. But when I send them the calendar link, I have a one-on-one introduction. I'm sure you've seen it. Like I have like one-on-one introduction, and then I provide, what we're going to talk about within this meeting. We're not going to talk anything about business until probably maybe at the end. But we start with like an icebreaker question, just getting to know each other on a deeper level rather than talking about, okay, how do we make this conversation less awkward? We want to go in with kind of like a plan in place, but just not talking about, business when we first start. Okay, we met at this networking event. Oh, I'm sure he's going to ask me about business. No, we want to transition, getting to know one another on a deeper level in the beginning, and then building that trust, we can start talking about business later if it makes sense.
Yeah,
But
most definitely.
successful, yeah, you got to start with building that like factor. So, yeah, I like telling a few jokes in the beginning. Just building
Always a
that
good
icebreaker.
idea.
Yeah, I was at a networking event today, and the guy was like, "Okay, just to start out, would love to hear more about a success that you had this week or a dad joke." Like I was just kind of thrown off by that. He was like asking, "Okay."
What?
Yeah, he wanted to hear okay, if you have a dad joke, can you please tell us one or success that you had this week or last week? And I threw in a dad joke. I had to. I'm just like, "Oh, nice to meet all you guys. It's my first time in the meeting." I'm just like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I've never seen you guys before in my life, but here's a dad joke that I just thought of." And just being a person, really, just being able to be connectable with other people.
It's being different is a very good idea.
No, absolutely. Everyone's unique in their own way. Absolutely.
And I also like that you mentioned I like to do the same thing of having basically 3/4 of the call. In my ideal world, we talk about whatever. It can be cars, it can be Vikings, it can be dad jokes. It doesn't really
Like,
matter, but it's not business. And then the last quarter of the call, okay, now we can speak just what we do quickly and get to know each other. Because people do business with people they like. There's no reason to talk about business if you don't like each other. Waste the time.
correct.
You might as well disengage nicely, like Parker taught you a bit earlier.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
I have a question written down. This is a bit of a longer one. I do want to
Okay.
ask you before we get off the call. Um,
That's a good way to
this,
disengage. That's a
yeah,
good way to disengage. I like
yeah,
it.
just yeah, just
Showing
talk.
us the example.
There you go.
This was not meant to go this way. God damn it! See, this is why I don't script your podcast. Otherwise, good stuff like this. Even though this for more from personal part for me, because when I first started with personal finances, for sure I could write down my expenses, my income. It's not very hard to write that stuff down. It's literally writing stuff down. Like a
Mhm.
person from first grade can do that. The difficult bit is actually following the advice, following the plan, making the
Mhm.
plan. We talked about it's hard to change a person's mindset. So, what would you say to that person out there that's sat there, written down all of the expenses just like me, but they have a hard time, like I had, actually following the plan and making the necessary lifestyle changes?
Following through. No, absolutely. So I'll be working with them throughout that process, just helping them, with their fix. If they need help with it, I'll help them, identify their fix, their discretionary expenses, and then their income. So figuring out that cash flow, we'll meet up every, probably 2 to 3 months, just keeping them accountable so that we're going to rediscover, okay, maybe things have changed, right? I'm always going to be here to, help them throughout that process. But just being able to put things on the calendar, like after you meet with them, just putting like a date on the calendar where we'll follow up, we'll have a follow up meeting, and then we'll maybe change things in your plan or just continue as you're currently doing it. But just identifying, okay, we're going to be here to help you, but just being able to keep them accountable to stick with their plan. I think that's very important as well. Just putting that date in the calendar for the future. It's one thing that I've done recently. Um, but yeah, just identifying yourself as an accountability partner. Like we're not just here, trying to sell you something, but we're going to be here to be able to be accountable for you to help with your process.
Well, it's funny you gave that answer because it was actually the solution I ended up using. I don't know if there are other ones, but you're not going to find them in this podcast, apparently.
No, not this one. No,
is there some final bit of knowledge, advice you want to leave our audience with?
Well, I just want to say thank you guys for the opportunity today. It's been a pleasure. We had a few laughs in there, but, hopefully we provided you some value on this podcast. But I don't really think I have any additional information. Please continue to following Mad's podcast. He's doing a fantastic job, connecting with people in these networking events, just connecting with people in general. So thank you again for having me on this podcast. And hope nothing but the best for you guys.
If people want to go out, reach out to connect with you, where should they reach out? We're going to have the links down below, but just what are the options?
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms, but I'm probably the easiest way is just connecting me through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every single day. I'll throw my link in the description below. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
I really enjoyed hearing your answers and some of the thoughts. And we also want to give a shout out to Mrs. Parker. Thank you for letting us borrow him for this podcast.
Yeah, that's my wife, Gabrielle. She's probably out and about doing some things right now. But yeah, thanks for having me on here, Gab. And hopefully we can maybe schedule something in the future where we can both be on.
That'll be a lot of fun.
That was a good one, Mike. A good one.
Dude, the kind of people that you and I like to work with are people that value family more than business.
Yeah, God, family than business.
We do. Us too. Well, except him. He's in the Norse mythology. He worships Logi.
No, I don't. Once you see something and I asked myself earlier today, I was like, something to God.
I'm trying to convert him to Christianity. It's just taking a little longer than I thought.
I was thinking today something, and I was like, said thank to God. Like, I was like, oh, but God, something to help me. I was like, well, let me clarify which God I want. I want Palda. I don't want that other one. Please, no.
Hey, you might get Freya. You know how that's going to turn out, buddy.
I wouldn't be mad at that one. Not the plan, but I wouldn't be mad at things not going to plan at that one. I'd be like, hey, okay.